Welcome to the Jazz Flyte Podcast. I'm your host, Darrell Scott, and together we will dive into the lives and careers of the jazz legends who have left a rhythmic imprint on the world. Be prepared to reminisce on the highs and the lows of their musical journey and the trials that sculpted their timeless musical gems. We'll preserve the legacy of these extraordinary maestros and find inspiration in the melodies of their lives. Subscribe now and never miss a beat. Now, let's get to the show. Welcome, everybody. This is the Jazz Flyte Podcast. I am Darrell Scott. My guest today is a man who has started a group that contains these three letters, GTF. You probably wonder what that means, but we are going to find out. Ladies and gentlemen, this is George Franklin of GTF. How are you doing today, George?
I'm doing well. How are you, Darrell? Thanks for having me.
Not a problem, sir. It is fine. It is finally, you're in California.
Yes.
We finally have a warm day here in Cleveland. Finally.
Oh, wow.
But I don't get me wrong, I don't want to live anyplace else.
Okay. Does it get warm this time of the year for you, or when does it start?
We had a very cold, long winter.
Okay.
And then over the last month or so, what happened was it would get to 70 degrees, and then for the next 4 days, it would be 35.
Oh.
So we had these constant up and downs.
Okay.
But, you know, like I want to do something on my deck. I can't do it because it's too cold. I want to paint a door. I can't do it because it's too cold.
Gotcha.
So, and you think, okay, I'll do it tomorrow. But then tomorrow it's 40 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to kind of pick and choose your spots. Let's talk about music. George, how did you start this group? And just tell me about the group. And there's one aspect I really want to talk to you about, and it's the fact that it seems as though the members are all over the country. How do you get everybody together to record music? I'll leave it to you now.
Well, the group was started, my wife and I, so the GTF is for George and Tracy Franklin. And my wife and I were writing songs. And we had a friend that we had worked with consistently in his studio in San Diego, Richard Lavoni. And we would go down and write. We would write songs, go down and record. Plus, we love just going to San Diego. We're in the Bay Area, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And we would just love going down and to San Diego visiting and just, recording our songs. And so a friend of ours, Bob James, my wife asked him one day, "Hey, I've got this song. Would you mind playing on it?" And this was back in 2005. And he said, "Oh, sure." So we said, well, maybe instead of just writing and recording, maybe we should really just concentrate on doing a project. And so we did. And we recruited a saxophonist that lives down there in the San Diego area, John Rekovics. Our keyboard player used to live in San Diego. I tell you, it's been so long since he's done a lot since 2005. He moved from San Diego to Peru, and then to New Orleans, and now he's here in the Napa Valley. So that's interesting. John Kane. Yeah. So anyway, and as far as our drummer goes, we use a guy from Detroit. And it's he's a phenomenal drummer. I always he's a Pistons fan.
I won't hold that against him.
Oh, but anyway, it's funny because we have like you said, everybody is all over the country, and we record him, Ron Otis, I'm sorry, as a drummer. We record him remotely for the most part. He'll do his parts at his house, and then send it in to Richard. But yeah, it's been, sometimes it's difficult, but now with technology being what it is, It really isn't. We can do remote recording. We've done some songs like that, and it's been great. Uh, you know, so but the problem is when we do have live dates, which has been few and far between. But when we do that, uh, we have to get together, rehearse, and then play the live date. Yeah.
How how has technology affected the group, so to speak? I mean, I'm still a fan of, I know it costs money, but fly everybody in
Mm-hmm.
at the hotel, somebody's house, and then you
Mm-hmm.
go to the studio. Because I'm of that. I think sometimes you need to see the emotion of the other person playing.
Correct.
That's me. So
Correct.
when you're playing a track from off the computer, I don't know if you can ad lib or whatever, but first of all, you have to learn all of that,
Mm-hmm.
which has now changed the process. How have you adjusted to all of that?
I'm like you. I'm from the old school where everyone was at the studio, analog at the same time,
Hmm.
same room, and there was an energy that you fed off of, especially the bassist and the drummer, well, everyone, but
Right.
the bassist and the drummer locking in, and I think one of the hardest things for me was just learning how to uh, uh, build my own energy, if you will, without
Hmm.
anyone around. And I think that's just been it's been it's an adjustment, let's say that, but I've gotten
Hmm.
used to it. uh,
Mm.
there are times when I do a lot of live dates with a couple of local bands here. One's a blues band, and the other one is a band we play R&B, pop, kind of jazz, contemporary jazz. So that at least I get my fill of
Hmm.
playing with live musicians that way. So, but yeah, the GTF thing is it's usually we'll have myself, Richard, and John Rekovics, the saxophonist, in the room together, and it's at least we're there and
Hmm.
recording together at the same time.
How, if I had to ask you, and I don't know if you can give me an accurate count,
Hmm.
if I said, George, how many songs do you have in your head that if I said, we're just going to play this and you need no rehearsal, you need nothing, you can just play? How many songs do you have stored in your mind?
That's a difficult question. I, you know, I, 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 I don't want to boast. Maybe a couple thousand, and and the reason why I say that is again playing locally with different music. I used to play with this keyboard player here, and he was phenomenal. And we never rehearsed, and he had thousands of songs in his mind. He would sit at the piano, and he knew a bunch of standards. I
Hmm.
knew them all. And Ricky he would sit there and just kind of, then he'd call a song and we'd start playing. And,
Mm.
and so playing with him really got me. And you learn standards, learn progressions, and be able to listen. And once you really started, and then and plus growing up in the '70s, playing '70s music,
Hmm.
you learn so much listening to the radio, putting your records on, and so and it's over the years. And sometimes I'll play something, or someone will suggest. Like I was playing with one of the a group a couple of weeks ago, and at the rehearsal, we brought in a singer, and she said, "Oh, I love playing Diana Ross," and I thought, okay, this is good. She says, "Yeah, I want to do I'm Coming Out," and then we were rehearsing a couple of Diana Ross songs and Diana Ross and the Supreme songs, and then she says, "Oh, I love Love Hangover." She said, "Have you ever played Love Hangover?" I said, yes. We were able to play it just right on the spot because gosh.
And then I think when you have that all in your mind,
Hmm.
and then you want to ad lib something or put in your taste of whatever it is,
Hmm.
you have to know when, that person has to know when to let you in. I
Hmm.
can imagine that rehearsals are kind of like trial and error.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just, yeah, I'm the simple guy who has to look at all of that. Let's take a break here. We are going to listen to a song of yours. I had a tough time. I like the titles of your songs,
Okay.
and I think we'll play. I'm a little hungry.
Okay.
I'm gonna play a little BBQ on the Jazz
Oh,
Flyte Podcast with
okay.
George Franklin. This is the Jazz Flyte Podcast. I am Darrell Scott. My guest today is George Franklin. I can say you're the leader of GTF.
Yes.
It's a jazz group based out of California. Everything musically seems to come out of California. Um, you play. You're called a multi-instrumentalist.
Mhm.
When did you learn to play all of these instruments, and who are your influence that you've looked up to?
Wow. In junior high, they called it junior high back when I was going to school. It's middle school now, but I'm going to say junior high.
Right, I get it. I
I
understand.
I grew up in the Los Angeles area, and so in junior high school, I was playing saxophone. I had a cousin who I looked up to. He was 4 years older than me. I looked up to him just like he was one of my heroes, and he played sax. So I said, when I get to junior high, I'm going to play sax as well, and I did that. He actually one day, it's an interesting story. Uh, we went at our church. My grandfather was our pastor, but he brought a couple of his friends from his school. He went to a high school called Lock High, and he brought a couple of his friends. The three of them played a sax like a trio, and I thought that was one of the most beautiful things I had ever heard. Well, the saxophonists that he brought with him, again, these guys are in high school, were Gerald Albright and Gary Bias. And Gary Bias has been with Earth, Wind, and Fire for a couple of
Right.
years now. Yeah. So those three guys, my cousin and those two guys, they were playing, and I just thought it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever heard. And so that was how I really started in terms of playing music. Then when I got to high school, you get to high school and you say, hey, I want to do something that's really cool. And people think that guitarists are really cool.
Mm,
So I switched to guitar. I was able to play guitar in orchestra and in marching band. And at the same time, I was also playing bass. But in school, I played guitar. So, gosh, I guess you could say I've been playing bass for 50 years. But that's how I got started. My influences, there have been so many. My first influences obviously were Larry Graham.
mm.
Larry Graham Central Station, Sly and the Family Stone. Lewis Johnson was a big influence.
Brothers Johnson.
But as I grew, and I really loved to listen to these guys that were these studio players that could really lay down solid grooves, and really their playing articulated well in the songs, and really their parts were just I loved it. So Chuck Rainey,
Mm.
Will Lee out of New York City, of course Marcus Miller. He's
Mm.
just he's an icon. But one of my favorite guys has always been Nathan East. Uh,
Yeah.
Anything Nathan does, I just I'm a fan of, and so much so that I bought a couple of Nathan East signature basses Yamahas that
Mm.
I play as well.
So, in going to your website, there's this narration.
Mhm.
Is that Nathan doing the narration?
That's Nathan East. Yeah, he with our marketing partner, Smooth Jazz Global. He does the voiceovers, and yeah, that's kind of cool, man.
Taking another job away from me, but it's all right. It's Nathan. Sometimes you just have to go with the flow.
Right.
Um, and you do everything in the band. So when you are creating a song,
Hmm.
how do you, because you have a couple of different multi-instrumentalists in the band, how do you decide who plays what? Or do you just play your parts and then they fit in wherever you decide to put them?
That's very interesting. I love that question because you're right. There's guys that can do it all. John Kane, our keyboardist, is also a great upright bass player. Um, uh, Richard plays multiple instruments: drums, guitar, bass, and he has his own bands, if you will. Um, so it's just one of those things. Well, when I'm starting off, and like say at home, and I'm recording a song. Usually I'll program, I'll get some drums and then, keyboards like keys and some bass work. If there's a vocal, we'll get that in. Um, but when we get to the studio, a lot of times it's like, we pretty much stay in our lane unless you feel like, hey, I think I can get a better feel for that. Like there was a guitar part in a couple of the songs that I said, oh, even though Richard's a phenomenal guitar player, I just said it's just a rhythm guitar part, and I kind of have a real feel for it. Let me just work that out. Um, if I lay a structure, a keyboard part, just to structure the song, sometimes it'll make it through to the final production, even though what the intent was just this was going to be a guide, and sometimes it just makes it through to the final production.
Hmm. Do you ever have debates? Say, like you said, someone else was playing it, but you think you have a better feel on it. Is there a discussion had, or do you just make the decision and say this is my deal, and we're going to do it my way?
That does happen sometimes, but most of the time it's democratic,
Hmm.
and we'll maybe A and B and listen to the parts side by side, and guys will give their input saying I feel that this was better or this one, so and everyone's pretty much open to that process. But yeah,
And I hear you also sing,
yes,
correct?
yes, yes. I go ahead. Sorry.
No, I'm not going to do that. I just wonder, when do you have time to do all of these things? We'll get into your job after the break, but you're
Mm-hmm.
it's bass, it's keyboards, you're producing this song, you're singing this song. I, how, did you grow up a multitasker?
I did. I did. And I grew up, obviously going to school and then working, uh, but always having music there. So my days were always full. I mean, really just full. And I just became used to it, So you have to devote a lot of time, obviously, to the craft, whatever it is you're doing. So it's full days, if you will, very full days, but worth it.
So here's a question that I just thought of. You're a multi-instrumentalist, you sing.
Hmm.
I'm going to give you front row center seats at whatever venue you should be at, whatever venue you want to be at. Who's singing? Who's playing the bass? Who's playing the keyboard? Who's playing the guitar? And you have your choice of the entire field of jazz musicians. This is a concert you're going to enjoy. I was telling story. There was a concert I went to, and I
Hmm.
sat on the very last row, and I rested
Hmm.
my head against the wall because all I want to do is listen to music. So all you want to
Hmm.
do is listen to music. Who are you picking? Who's your? And it could be a band member, it could be a soloist, it could be whoever. But who is it that you are listening to?
Well, if I've done this a couple of times, but if it's if the singer, Al Jarreau,
Mhm.
he's no longer with us, but
Right,
that I loved. I've gone to several of his shows, and I just love
right.
it. Gosh, the bass player Nathan East, all day,
Okay.
all day, and oh gosh, there's so many guitarists out there that I absolutely enjoy. Lee Ritenour, Larry Carlton. Um, oh, Earl Klugh.
Nice.
Earl Clue. Yeah. Yes.
If you look over to your left and somebody's sitting next to you, it's probably me. Because I think it's always interesting
Mm-hmm.
to find out who you guys are listening to.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're at home to relax or whether you need something to get you inspired or whether you're going to the gym and work out and you need something to get you through that routine.
Mm-hmm.
Because we don't often hear because you're always the main player. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I think to me it's interesting to find out what you listen to. If I said and off the top of your head, don't put a whole lot of thought into this.
Mm-hmm.
What's your favorite song about right now, about going on right now?
Ooh, that's too tough. Oh gosh, there are too many
Or
songs.
or in your lifetime, if you had to think of a song that you could just listen to, that you just hit the repeat button and it plays over and over and over again, what might that song be?
Wow. That's such a broad. There's a couple of Earl Clue songs. Heartstring is one.
Hmm.
Wishful Thinking, which a friend of mine, Gil Johnson, actually re-recorded and he wrote lyrics to, and and,
Oh,
and he it's beautiful. So Wishful Thinking by Earl Clue. Um, wow, wow,
I
that's
don't, I
yeah.
don't tax you too much, so
Mhm.
that's good enough. All right, let's take another moment here to listen to. I'll do this. Let's do Ever Since We Met by GTF on the Jazz Flight Podcast. This is Darrell Scott. You're listening to the Jazz Flight Podcast. Our guest today is George Franklin
Mhm.
from the group GTF. George, once again, thank you for being a guest on the show. You have another career, and I think what you do musically is enough.
Mhm.
But somehow you have managed a long, prosperous career. And if you want to tell the name of the company, I will let you do that. But you spent almost 30 years in that business. What, first of all, what came first, music or this job? And now that you're done, what are you looking most forward to in your retirement?
Well, I'm looking forward to being able to play music all day. My job, which was interesting, I spent 37 years at Kaiser Permanente in San Francisco. Um, and it's a large company here out here, especially in Northern California. There's a lot of different venues. A lot of people move around, but I stayed in San Francisco, managing and support services for, and like I said, it was a long career. The commute ate up a lot of my day. For my first, I would say, 25 years, I drove. And as the
Hmm.
traffic patterns really became, worse and worse with more people being in the area, for the last 12 years, I rode transit. There's a commuter bus from Hercules, where I live, directly to San Francisco,
Hmm.
with no stops. So that made it easier, and you could, relax, nap, watch TV, whatever on that bus.
Right.
But that a lot of aspects of that job were demanding because you were on call 24/7. It was everything we did was 24/7. So
Hmm.
hospital is like that. It's a large medical center. So um, even though there were times when I'd be out playing a gig or a show, and you know your
Seriously?
your work phone would ring.
Oh,
So I'd have to wait either to a break or kind of sneak off, between songs and say, hey, real quick, because I got to get back. This is my other,
Right.
if you will. But I'm happy now that well, I tell you what, there because for in 2023 and 2024, I played 100 dates each year. Yeah, yeah, and
Mm,
balancing that and working was tough. So for 2025, what I did was I so on the days that I don't that I have a performance, I won't go to work. Yeah,
hmm.
so that at least made that it made a difference
Right.
here.
Right.
And it was tough, and trust me, and it was very demanding. A lot of times, like I said, my days were just full, but right now, I'm just happy to be able to wake up. If I have a song in my head, I can, work it out or try to work it out and then come back to it later or take a walk, take my dog out. It's just been great. And I found that there's a lot to do, even though I've been so I've only been retired for a couple of months, but
Hmm.
there's been a lot to keep me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it's been interesting.
So what did you take from your time at Kaiser
Hmm.
and then apply to your musical career? Is there some management skills? Is some life skills? What is it?
I would say my management style was one where I trusted my staff. You
Hmm.
I also elicited their opinion on a lot of different processes that we would have to make the job better, make it easier, make it more efficient. Uh, and working as a musician, it's one of those things where, again, when you're playing, especially with the different musicians, you have to build that trust. And it's just one where the drummer needs to know that I'm not going to overplay on throughout,
Hmm.
and we also know that we have to complement each other. Same thing with a guitarist or a saxophonist or a keyboard player. We're going to complement one another, so that trust has to be built.
I thought I just could multitask at my day job, but multitasking and having two careers, man, that's got to be rough on the psyche too.
It was
Um,
it was tough, and especially if I had there were times I tell you once we had again I was dry. I drove from my home to San Francisco. I took my gear with me, left it in my vehicle, and then after the my work day, or I would go to like Half Moon Bay, or once we went and did something as far as Capitola, which is down in, on the Monterey Bay, but on the north end of the Monterey Bay, and
mhm.
that was. That was tough. Oh boy.
The best thing about it is, I guess, would be the fact that you live in an area where if you decided to go out on the deck or out on the back porch or over to the
Hmm.
beach, it's so peaceful, it's sunny,
Yes,
you can escape.
you can.
Is what I call it, and kind of clear your mind. But that also leads to, as you're sitting there clearing your mind, a song pops into your head, and, and oh wait, I got to write this down so I can remember what's going on.
Right.
Um, George, how does the Jazz Flight family keep up with everything that you're doing? Do you have a social media presence?
We do. We're the GTF Jazz on Instagram, and also GTF Jazz on Facebook. And we also have a website, gtfjazz.com. Um, so my wife is in the process of updating all of those sites, if you will. So that's how you would keep up with what we're doing. We're currently working on a new project, uh, and hopefully we'll have it out this year. And
Well,
one of
let us know. Go ahead.
I don't know. I was going to say one of the real highlights is that so for the first two albums we've done, we were just honored to have Bob James play on a couple songs, and he's also one of my favorite all time favorite musicians.
Hmm.
Well, uh, but for this project, he actually wrote a song.
Ooh.
Yeah, he wrote a song for us. So
Hmm.
it's gonna be one of the featured tunes when the album comes out. I still call them albums.
Yeah, I fight with that battle all the time. I just call them projects now because don't get me wrong, the room I'm
Right.
sitting in right now,
Uh-huh.
Each of these walls has, I don't know, 1,000 CDs, maybe
CD,
a little more. And in
definitely.
and in front of me is probably 700, 800 albums.
See,
I
see.
try not to play them because what happens is
Hmm.
I think of a song, I play it while that song is playing, I think of another song,
Mm.
and it just goes so forth and so on. And then the carpet becomes album covers and CDs covers, and I wind up having to put them up when I'm done.
That's
For
okay as long as you're enjoying it. I'm with you. I
I
still enjoy my CDs and albums. It's my yes.
Yeah, there's songs, and most of the stuff is, I'm be frank and honest, most of the stuff is 20 years old.
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
But there are songs, or there are individuals who maybe only made one or two albums,
Hmm.
but there are songs on there that you just go, I can't help but listen to this. So,
Yes.
and then I try to keep up with new stuff, which is a job all unto itself.
Man, there's a lot of artists out there
Yes,
nowadays.
yes, there are. George, I appreciate the time. I've learned a lot. We will follow you. If there's anything that Jazz Flight can do to help with the music, please let us know. We'll
Thank
put
you.
it on our social media. We'll do everything we can. And occasionally, there's a couple other projects we're working on.
Okay.
We might we might enlist your help.
I would love it, Darrell. I appreciate you having me on, and this has been a blast.
All right, man. We try to have fun.
We
All right.
do. Go Cavs.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to the Jazz Flight Podcast. I am Darrell Scott. As always, if you like this conversation and you want to hear more like this, all you have to do is hit the subscribe button at the end of the show. Until next week, we'll talk again. Thank you for tuning in to the Jazz Flight Podcast. I hope you enjoy the stories and soulful melodies that groove through the doors of time. If you want to stay connected with the latest updates and episodes, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell. Until next time, I'm Darrell Scott.